Hello and welcome to what I am tentatively calling an author's commentary on a Waxwork Purgatory, which, if you are unfamiliar, is a short story written by me and is one of the only other videos on this channel as of this moment. So I would highly recommend listening through that or reading through it if you would prefer on my blog at criticrywrites.wordpress.com because I am now going to be talking a little bit about it. Before we get into things, I do want to recognize that that video probably has like single digit views and the blog post probably has single digit views, and it's probably a little bit weird to be like, let me give you an insight into the workings of this short story that hardly anyone read, but it's kind of an exercise for me and it's fun to do, and who knows, someone might be curious, so that's why we're doing this. I mean, I guess you're curious if you're listening to this, so thanks for coming, let's talk about it. A Waxwork Purgatory is not the most cheerful story I have ever written. I apologise if I put a downer on anyone's day, but I tried to make it out to be a story about finding happiness within your own limitations, if that makes sense. It's kind of a lesson I've been learning in life, specifically in terms of writing. I'm currently trying to get my ADHD diagnosed because I think it's what stopped me writing a novel all these years, and it's, you know, when you measure your self-worth by your ability to write a novel, turns out you have pretty low self-worth when you can't do it. So while I never meant for this short story to be a metaphor for me in that regard, it did turn out to be, in some ways at least. But I guess that's just the nature of writing. You're always going to end up putting part of yourself into what you write, aren't you? Before we get too far into things, I do just quickly want to mention that if a Waxwork Purgatory sounds familiar to you, then thank you, because it's probably because you read the only short story I have on a blog called Have It In by Friday. .wordpress.com. Sorry, I kind of stumbled over that. Have It In by Friday.wordpress.com is the name of that one. It was my second attempt at a short story blog. We're currently on my third, but it was the first short story I had written in years, and I went back and reread it. It's called, oh god, what's it called again? It's called Out of Time, and if you've never read it, you don't have to. It's basically just a short story from Warren's point of view. If you remember Warren from A Waxwork Purgatory, it's not Theodore's, oh my god, what I call him, Terence's best friend. The original story is told from Warren's point of view because I thought, you know, the frozen time thing, it's been done before, but have you ever seen it from the friend's point of view who's seeing their friend, you know, try to convince them about this? And, you know, I'm kind of a sucker for the idea of a story which is told from a perspective that you might not expect. But when I went and reread that as I was setting up this new monthly short story blog, all I could think about was that it doesn't read very well. It's not one of the better short stories I've written, in my opinion, and I'm talking about in terms of actual writing style. I still think the premise is solid as far as premises that I can come up with go, but it just read like something I would have written 10 years ago, not 2 years ago, so I had the idea of reworking it, and then I was thinking more and more about, because the kind of the second half of that short story is a letter from Terence to Warren talking about what his life has been like because he spent his entire life trapped within the pause. And I thought that was the highlight of that short story, and I thought, why don't I just write from his point of view? And there are a few things that change. It's not like a direct tie-in. Like, in the original short story, he was able to watch television and operate cars and stuff, but when I was thinking through it this time around, I was thinking that doesn't really make any sense. As bad as I've made Terence's life, I'm going to have to take a little bit more away from him. But I thought I could write a lot more about Terence's point of view from being stuck in a single moment of time for his entire life, and I'm really glad I decided to do it, because I did not intend for this story to be 4,500. It's like 4,800 words long now, isn't it? And yeah, I guess if you can't tell, I'm pretty pleased with the overall outcome, but I've never written a perfect short story, and I probably never will. I have some gripes with it, and that's the kind of thing I want to get into with these videos, is I want to talk about what I liked about what I did, why I did what I did, but also what I didn't like about what I did. So firstly, something I liked about what I did, the bisexuality thing. That's probably going to take some people off guard. But, you know, it's not just about me wanting to include diversity within my fiction, which is one of the main reasons I wanted to do this, but it's also because I wanted to give Terence something, like some development that he had discovered about himself that he desperately wanted to share with people, but couldn't. because I apparently hate this character and want him to go through pain. I'm sorry, everyone. One of the reasons I made him bi, and probably the most valid reason, is he just seemed like that kind of a guy. He just seemed bi. And there's this argument I've heard that has been told to me. People have tried to make gay characters in their stories, and publishers have been like, they have to be gay for a reason. And it's like, okay, so, you know, Terrence is bi for reasons, but he's also just bi. That's just who he is, and that's fine. I am aware that I stumbled a little bit into the kill your gays tragedy cliche stuff, and I do apologize for that if it reads that way, but Mr. Motorbike, please, I am trying to have a civilized discussion about bisexuality. But I think overall this story is a tragedy, and I wanted to write a tragedy because I'm just that bitch. Now, if I want to talk more seriously about it, I mean, what's the point of tragedy, right? It's to help readers feel cathartic, to help them understand their own pain in their own lives, so yeah, that's why anyone ever writes anything sad and enjoys anything sad. If you enjoyed it, it's your fault too. You made me do this. It's on you. I was tempted to lean, as now talking about criticisms of myself, I was tempted to lean further into the unstable mind, because I think if you're talking realistically about someone's state of mind in that situation, they would probably have gone further down the quote-unquote road of madness, or if we want to be more professional about it, an ill state of mental health, than Terrence did. Hi, it's me, the writer of a story. I can't get my damn name straight. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to focus too much on the mental health going too badly, because it's a short story, and I had a lot I wanted to tell in it, and I feel like if I was writing a novel of these events, which I kind of think I could, if I could write a damn novel, I would probably go deeper into that side of things. You know, I think at one point Terrence mentions that, you know, he can't go back to that state of mind, it almost killed him, or whatever I wrote. And that was kind of meant to be a hint at, like, you know, you don't see every journal entry, and there's stuff in there that's, you know, I tried to include the highlights of, like, the main points of his life, of, like, his thoughts and stuff, but there's also stuff in there that's going to be more just like, woe is me, why is this happening to me? I can't believe this is happening. I can't go on, that kind of thing. But, you know, this story's sad enough as it is, right? But yeah, more criticism, I guess, just in terms of general plausibility. Obviously, the ability to stop time isn't exactly plausible, but if that were to happen, you know, as I read it back, and there was always time to edit things and work around things and change things, but at some point you have to put a story out, right? As I read it back, I thought he mentioned that he was starting to notice some gaps on the store shelves from the years that he had spent eating from store shelves and stuff. And I realised it would probably be more than a few gaps. If he'd been there for like 5 years, which was my general kind of rough estimate, he would probably, even if he was shopping at different shops, you know, they only have a certain amount of food on the shelves, and it's never going to go out of date for him, but you know, there's also never going to get stock replenished, so I don't know. I tried not to focus too much on the specifics about how this worked. Like, part of me still thinks he shouldn't have been able to cook food on a fire, because how are you going to ignite a fire when there's no time to cause the chemical reaction for a fire to light, right? But at some point, he's got to be able to survive, and he's got to be able to, you know, eat. So I just went with, yeah, he can cook. Fuck it. I don't know. I was thinking about microwaves. I was like, I don't think microwaves would work, but I decided just not to mention them. And that's what I mean about not getting too bogged down in the details, because I think when you stop and think about this for too long, you realize that, yeah, of course you can't freeze time. Nothing would make sense. I don't think you'd be able to move if you could freeze time. I also have difficulty with endings. I've already ended this story further down the line in Terrence's life in the original short story, so if you're curious about that, again, it is available on that original blog. I just don't think it's as good. But I was like, how do I bring this particular version of events to a close in a satisfying way? And I feel like maybe having the leap of decades between I've just got my heart broken and I'm going to leave again, because that's a common theme, he leaves places when he's hurt. I was worried that a leap from that to, oh, it's 20 years later and I'm kind of okay now, I've got this cat that I talk to, you know, I wasn't sure if that would be a satisfying ending, but you know, it's a long short story, and, well, I mean, it's long by my standards. I read that short stories can go up to like 7,500 words, this is 4,800 words, but I thought it was a satisfying enough conclusion. He mentions that he's come to this point in his life. The main problem is that I'm trying to write about this guy's life over the course of many, many years within a short story, so maybe it was never a good idea to make this a short story. Again, I could revisit this for a novel, I was originally thinking about this when I conceptualized the idea. I was like, is this a novel or is this a short story? And I thought the problem with making it a novel is he's the only character who has a voice in the entire novel, and that's a little much. If I was going to make this a novel, I might make it more supernatural and have some kind of force which is antagonistic against him within this frozen world, but, you know, maybe that's a story for another day. Please don't steal that. Please don't steal that. It's probably a bad idea to be putting this online, but I don't care. I just want to be writing for the love of it. Anyway, I think that's about all the self-analysis I've got within me. If you have any thoughts about these thoughts that I had about my own writing, oh good lord, this is so self-congratulatory, isn't it? Leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought about those thoughts that you have about my thoughts. Okay, before I lose my mind, I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for checking this out, especially this video. I'm guessing you wouldn't have listened to this if you hadn't listened or read the story, so good English me. I'm a writer. Okay, cool, goodbye, ciao, ending it, bye.